I stopped packing insulin in my mother's travel bag for her cruise after she told the ship's nurse I was hoping for an incident. My mom has type 1 diabetes. She was diagnosed when I was 11, and from basically that point on, I've been the one who pays attention. My brother moved to Denver after college and calls on Christmas and her birthday. My dad's been out of the picture since I was little, so it was always me. I learned what a crash looks like before I learned how to parallel park. I know which foods spike her, which insulin brands she reacts weird to, what her CGM graph looks like right before she goes low and stops making sense. I've called 911 for her twice. Once when I was 15 and once when I was 26. Both times I was the only one in the room. She's been more stable the last couple years, but she still doesn't really manage it herself. She forgets to bolus before meals, eats stuff without thinking, so whenever she travels, I'm the one who preps everything. I pack her insulin with extras in case something gets lost or damaged. I put together a one-page sheet with her medication schedule, her endocrinologist contact info, her emergency protocol. I've been doing this for every trip she's taken for the past 9 years. Weekends with my aunt, a long weekend in Florida, a road trip with her church friend Carol. Every single time I do the bag. This cruise was a huge deal to her. She and her friend Diane had been planning it for almost a year. 7 days in the Caribbean. She was so excited she'd talk about it every time I saw her. I took a day off work to come over and help her pack everything out. I organized her insulin by day, labeled her glucagon kit pouch, wrote up instructions in case the ship's medical staff needed to step in, went over the whole thing with her the night before she left. When I hugged her goodbye, she said she didn't know what she'd do without me. Those were her actual words. She'd been gone 4 days when my cousin Renee texted me. She said she'd heard from my aunt that my mom had mentioned to the ship's nurse, like during a routine check-in, just conversation, that the reason I pack so much stuff is because I'm paranoid something will happen to her. And not paranoid in a worried daughter way, in a hoping for an incident way. That was the phrase Renee used. Hoping for an incident. I called my aunt to make sure I was understanding it right. I was. I didn't call my mom on the ship. I didn't want to have that conversation over a spotty satellite connection while she was somewhere sunny with a cocktail. I just sat with it. I sat with it for the rest of the trip, and I sat with it the 3 days after she got back before she called me, which honestly told me something too, that she wasn't rushing to check in. She called on a Wednesday around 7 p.m. in a great mood. She told me about the food, about a dolphin excursion she and Diane did, how the weather was perfect the whole week. She said the ship's medical staff was really attentive and checked on her twice. I let her go for about 10 minutes. Then I said, "Mom, did you tell the nurse on the ship that the reason I pack your bag is because I'm hoping something happens to you?" She went quiet. Then she did this thing she does where she sort of laughs like I've said something silly and says I'm misunderstanding. She said she was just making conversation. The nurse had asked how she managed her diabetes while traveling. She mentioned I helped her prep, and it probably came out wrong. I said hoping for an incident doesn't come out wrong. That's a specific thing to say about your daughter. She started explaining that she didn't mean it that way, that I was being too sensitive, that I know how she gets when she's talking to new people. I told her yeah, I did know how she got. That was kind of the whole issue. She asked if I was really going to make this into a big thing. I said I wasn't making it into anything. I was just letting her know that I wouldn't be packing her bag for her next trip, that she should ask her doctor's office for a travel checklist, or she could ask Diane to help her, or she could figure it out on her own. Any of those worked fine for me. She said I was being vindictive. I said I've been managing your insulin since I was 11 years old. The one time I step back, that's vindictive. But telling a stranger on a cruise ship that your daughter might be waiting for you to have a medical emergency, that was just making conversation. She didn't say anything for a second. Then she said she had to go. She hadn't unpacked yet. She's taken 2 trips since then. I don't know how she packed.